Cheesemans attracts like-minded people that really have a passion for nature. My name is Debbie Thompson, and we're originally from California, right in the Bay Area, California. We moved to Oregon in 2018.
And I'm Steve Thompson, also in Portland, Oregon, or Lake Oswego, Oregon, originally from the Bay Area with Debbie. That's how we met the Cheesemans, in the Bay Area with the Santa Clara Audubon Society.
We were reviewing our trip list and we discovered we've been on 29 different trips with Cheesemans. But this is over quite a long time. We started in 1990.
Was our first trip. Or yeah, actually you've traveled with them before we got together. So your history with the Cheesemans goes back farther than mine does.
Yeah. We hooked up with Doug and Gail at, like Steve said, Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society, and just loved their energy, and we just started traveling with them. And over these 30 years, we've almost exclusively traveled with Cheesemans. So
I like to say that I haven't taken a vacation without Doug and Gail I can't remember the last vacation I took without Doug and Gail or one of the Cheeseman trips and their great staffs.
When we first started traveling, we were both doing engineering. And so I retired from that in 2006. And then Doug kept trying to talk me into working for Cheeseman. So finally I relented and said, okay, I'll work part-time. So I worked, and I figured it would just be a few years, but it turned into 10 years because I loved it so much and I still love traveling. So I worked for Cheesemans for 10 years until 2018 when we moved.
Our first trip was 1993 to the Russian Arctic, and when I took that trip with Debbie, I knew nothing about nature. I didn't really pay attention to nature. I knew nothing, but I just got so turned on by the enthusiasm and the knowledge that Doug and Gail that trip, and it just opened up a whole new world to me. So I've become a different person, I think, because of having traveled with them. And from that point to this point, I'm certain we've evolved a lot. We're certainly into photography and videography, natural science, very interested in that kind of stuff. Birding, just a general, I think we're more generalists, I would say, about just getting out in nature and learning new things.
I was involved a lot with our local Audubon chapter. I volunteered for them for many, many years. And, through them, I did a lot of citizen science, and we were we just love learning about all things in nature. It's so interesting.
We always did birdathons and bird counts, and so we did get into a lot of that kind of stuff too.
The one thing I found as far as camera gear goes is I hardly ever use my tripod anymore. Now with image stabilization, I kind of carry my tripod in my suitcase, but there's been trips where I've never taken the tripod out of the suitcase. Because when you're on these trips and things are going on so fast around you, you don't have a lot of time to set up things on a tripod. So I think that's one thing I found over the years.
And I've never really had a tripod. I have a little Gorilla Pod, little 12-inch thing that I can set up, but I've never had a full-length tripod, just way too much work.
Everybody's favorite camera lens is the 100 to 400 zoom. It's a great lens. It covers a lot of zoom, and it's just, and I pretty much exclusively use that, it seems like. Pay attention to all those people that are better than you around you and see what they're doing. Copy what they're doing, because they don't really care if you copy what they're doing, and just learn and pick their brains. You can learn a lot from people. And I think the one thing I've learned and I picked up from a lot of the people is really pay attention to backgrounds, especially when you're taking a picture of some certain animal. Look at the background and make sure it's what you want.
Keep your clips short and kind of leave the viewer wanting a little more. And
oh, there's so many. The world is a big place, and there's so many places to go and things to see, and yeah, my list is still pretty long.
I think the photography and the videography is kind of secondary to all that. You know, it's nice to document it all, but it's really just great to be there, and the food and the experiences and the people that you meet, and snorkeling with the humpbacks in the Silverbank. It was just nothing like that. You just get in the water and they come up to you and curious, and really close. And they come near you, and the babies swim and they almost hit you, and it's just nothing like that in the world.
When we went up to Botswana on the camping safari, just sitting in your tent at night and hearing the lions roaring off in the distance, and then another group of lions is answering from the other directions, and hearing other noises. And we never felt scared. We always felt very secure in our tent. But just being there out in the field with all these animals around you, and you just, that's a short memorable experience. It's got to be penguins. Yeah. Just to sit there and the penguins kind of ignore you. And you can sit there in one spot and just watch them, and they're doing so many things and stealing pebbles and fighting with each other, and really getting serious fighting or just playful fighting, and watching the chicks and the chick chases. It's so many things. It's unbelievable. I could just sit there all day long in one spot and just watch all the stuff going on around.
The mom or the dad comes back to the nest, and they change positions, and one gets off the egg and one gets back on the egg, and the egg exchange. That you could just sit there for hours.
It's got to be Antarctica. Oh, you just can't believe you're down there in such beautiful place with no other humanity around you, and just you can't even. It's mind-boggling. You keep pinching yourself. Does this kind of a place really exist in this world?
Yeah, I remember our first trip to Antarctica, and we were on a trip with people who had been before, and I thought it was so strange that they were coming back a second and a third time, and I just couldn't understand that. It was like, why would you come back? Expensive trip. Why would you come back again and again? And as soon as we got back, we're like, okay, when are we going again?
Yeah.
I get it now. Well, once you go there and you experience it, you get why you want to go back.
I think the biggest thing is having a packing list. We've refined our packing list over 30 years, and it's so nice to have everything written down, because then you don't forget anything, and then you can weed out the stuff that you find you never use when you get there. And
then we split stuff.
Oh, that's another good hint.
So she'll take half of my stuff, I'll take half of her stuff, just in case we lose one bag, or if we lose both bags, that's a big problem. But if we lose one bag, at least we have some stuff half the stuff that the other person needs too.
And then when we get to our destination, we reshuffle. Land conservation, I think, is one of the biggest problems. There's just not enough room to maintain the species and their genetic diversity. So that's going to be a real problem. And then there's your air pollution, your water pollution in some of the poor countries. Is when we travel, and we like the culture, but I really can't wait to get out of the cities because of all these problems that are just right there in your face. The air pollution, the water pollution, the garbage all over, and the poor people. It's just heartbreaking. So we just get itchy. We can't wait to get back out in the countryside where we find that people are more happy. There's a little bit better living conditions. They work really hard on their farms and stuff, but at least they have food. So all these problems, it really stares at you in the face when you travel. And it really opened your eyes, because I think a lot of people in our country, we're so well off here that traveling really gives you a different perspective on the world, and really opens your eyes and all the problems. I think that one of the big things that we try to do, maybe not so successful all the time, but I think as long as you try, is to look at what you do in your daily life, all the stuff you're throwing away, like food and not disposable paper towels and napkins and all that stuff. Just look at all that stuff in your daily life and try and every little bit helps. Try and do a little bit to reduce that. And I think if everybody did that, it would just make the world such a much better place. Go on a trip to see something in nature.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they travel, they go to Europe and they go to all the museums and all the churches, and I love that stuff too. It's, history is great, but to tell you the truth, we've never been to Europe really, except for on our way somewhere else. And I would love to go there, but I don't know. When I see all those hordes of people around, like all these famous places, I say, oh, I don't really want to fight with all that. I can see all that stuff on TV. But just being out there in nature and be surrounded by nature, I think it gives me such a good feeling inside.
Yeah, buy a good pair of binoculars and get out into nature and just look around and observe things. And
slow down.
Yeah, and like I said, I'd never done that before a Cheeseman trip, and it just changed my outlook on things from that day forward.
Oh, pizza.
Pizza.
It's gotta be pizza. And it's funny because during this shelter in place, I didn't really crave pizza, but when I travel, I want to have pizza or maybe chocolate. I think I would love to have a conversation with Charles Darwin. I've read a lot of his books and a lot of books about him. To think that he came up with this theory when the whole world was operating on a different set of theories, and what he was up against to promote his theory.
I'd pick maybe like an explorer, like maybe Ernest Shackleton, something like that, to find out, what motivated him to do what he did in Antarctica and all the trips that he took, and maybe after he returned from that trip, to pick his brain on his experiences. I just think the people of that time were so much more hardy than we are, and just stout people, and just the way they lived and how they thought about things. I'd love to go back and talk to someone like that.
We went to Rwanda to see the mountain gorillas. I guess I was a little apprehensive because they're called mountain gorillas for a reason. Sometimes you have to hike up and they're in the rainforest, hike up through the muddy rainforest, up the mountain to find some gorillas to watch. I wasn't worried about seeing the gorilla, but I was a little apprehensive about that hike. But luckily, we did 2 days with the mountain gorillas, and we had both easy hikes, so I was happy about that. And we had a great experience sitting there, and you're only allowed to go for an hour, but great hours on both days. In fact, we were squatting, just kind of squatting down on the ground really close to this one troop of gorillas. And this juvenile male just kind of ran by me and just kicked me with his back foot. and they're really not hard, but just, and it was just like, yeah, it was just like you didn't know he was going to do that. I think just to show, you know, a little tap to remind everybody who's bought, and it's like one of my most memorable experiences. But I think we were a little apprehensive of what it turned out to be.
For other ways to follow Cheesemans Ecology Safaris and the topics discussed today, please check out the links in the video's description below. If you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up below and subscribe to Cheesemans for more fun and informative videos.